Alright guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. You're going to learn a lot of information that you did not know in this video. That's right, I can promise you that right off the bat. Today we are going to be welcome to a Physionic video. Today we will be discussing a scholarly version, a scholarly video, scholarly article, all of that obviously. As usual, my sources are going to be linked below with an entire article that goes into far more detail than even this video. I know, hard to imagine, that I've written. And again, it's down below, all free, etc., etc. But this video is a scholarly video, which means that there will be a menu system, and we're going to be covering one topic in its fullest extent. So, what is that topic? We are going to be discussing Beta-Alanine. Yes, the supplement. Beta-Alanine. What is it? That's the first thing we're going to cover. We're going to cover how does it function? Does it work? That's another thing. Does it work? By how much does it work? If it works, by how much does it work? We're going to discuss the physiology. We're going to go into the cells, into your body, and we're going to understand why it works, if it works, or why it doesn't work, if it doesn't work. We're going to go over the dosages for the appropriate level that you need for it to work, if it works. Always if it works, because I want to keep you on the edge of your seat. And then we're also going to cover the safety and what you can do if you supplement with it, and maybe you get those tingles in your face and you don't like those tingles in your face. What can you do to stop the tingles or to enhance the tingles if you like the tingles? So, long enough of an intro, let's get right into it. And again, sources all listed below, as well as a menu system to skip to different parts of the video linked below. So, let's get to it! So first things first, what is beta-alanine? Beta-alanine is a naturally occurring amino acid. It is a non-proteogenic amino acid, but it is still nonetheless a naturally occurring amino acid, meaning that the liver actually synthesizes beta-alanine. And we'll go a little bit more into some of the more interesting details on why it's important that we understand that the liver synthesizes beta-alanine and how that plays a role later on in the physiology, as well as the dosage sections of this video. But just know, beta-alanine, amino acid, synthesized in the body. Is it effective? In short, yes, it is. It is more or less effective based on the physiological state of your body, essentially saying that based on the amount of beta-alanine that your body produces, as well as another molecule that I'm not going to tell you about right now, but we will go over it in the physiology section. You'll find out more about that. But depending on how much your body actually synthesizes itself without supplementation, it will be more or less effective to supplement with beta-alanine. But for basically every single human being on planet Earth, will supplementing beta-alanine be effective? Yes, it will increase the levels of beta-alanine in your system, and we'll find out why that's beneficial later on. So how does beta-alanine actually function? Without going into the actual physiology, we'll cover that next, which is far more detailed. What we should know is that beta-alanine actually has an effect on our muscles. So our muscles are able to endure a certain level of exercise or a certain level of intensity for a longer period of time. I think that's probably the best way to put it. And it has about a roughly 12 to 13% boost. Again, that's variable based on who you are, but on average about a 12 to 13% boost in the duration that you're able to maintain a particular level of intensity. Now that level of intensity is really, it's a little nebulous and dependent on the person that you're talking about, but if you're talking about exercise that should last about 1 to 4 minutes, so moderate to high intensity, more that moderate, between that moderate to high intensity exercise, then you're going to see a benefit from beta-alanine. So we're not talking about a person who's doing like power exercise, like 1 repetitions on squat or 3 repetitions on squat. But if a person were to do like 8 to 15 repetitions on a squat or a deadlift or anything that's going to get that burning sensation in your legs or in your body or wherever you're training, you're doing dumbbell press or whatever, and you're hitting those 8 to 15 reps, you're going to start feeling that burn inside your musculature, especially in your triceps, for example, for that specific exercise. Then beta-alanine would be beneficial for you. Okay? All right, now let's actually understand the physiology of why in the next section. So let's go ahead and get started and look at the physiology of how beta-alanine affects the musculature, or your musculature if you're taking it. To begin, what we're going to do is kind of paint a picture, and for us to do that we have to understand from the very beginning and then end up at our conclusion. So here we are, and this chemical right here, and I don't want you to get thrown off by the chemicals that you're going to see in this, but this chemical is beta-alanine. This is beta-alanine. Now, for beta-alanine to be effective, we end up consuming it, and it ends up in our stomach, gets into our intestines, and then it goes into our circulatory system, so our blood system, which then carries this chemical, this exact chemical in its structure, to our muscles. And in our muscles are composed of, this is what we see, our actual muscle belly, but then if we kind of zoom in, what we see is fascia, and then from those fascia and different pieces that make up this muscle belly, we end up seeing these individual muscle fibers. And individual muscle fibers are individual muscle cells, as we see here. Now, I don't want you to focus on any of this stuff, so I'm going to knock all this stuff out because it doesn't matter. What we need to focus on is this. So just these individual units that make up one piece that makes up one muscle belly. Okay, so in this case we're looking at an arm, a bicep, for example. Now here's a zoomed in version of the exact same thing right here. So inside of here are a bunch of different things, and what beta-alanine needs to do is it goes through our blood system, and then it goes inside through transporters. It goes inside of this muscle cell, so this muscle fiber. And once it's inside, it actually needs the help of another amino acid, and that amino acid is this one right here called histidine. Histidine is an amino acid that you can also consume. Now, we've got both of these amino acids found inside of the actual muscle cell. So, that said, what happens? Well, inside the muscle cell, there is an enzyme by the name of carnosine synthase, or otherwise also known as carnosine synthetase. And with combination of these two amino acids, beta-alanine and histidine, this enzyme takes those two, kind of grabs onto both of them and kind of puts them together in a certain conformation that creates another molecule by the name of carnosine. Now, carnosine is found in heavy amounts in muscle when you supplement with beta-alanine, and we'll be going over that later on in the dosage section, a little bit more interesting information on the relationship between those two. But okay, so that's the physiology. That's how beta-alanine affects the muscle. But what does all that of that mean? Well, carnosine is just a molecule. Okay, well, who cares, right? But it does matter, because if we look at glycolysis, which is one of our metabolic ways that we can create energy when we exercise, for example, or even when we're not exercising, it goes through this long process. And I don't want you to, again, you don't have to focus on any of this stuff in the middle. Not important. What you need to focus on is when we take a glucose molecule, which is just blood sugar, which you always have in your system, it eventually ends up as this molecule, but more importantly, it actually gets converted when we exercise really intensely and you feel that burning sensation in your muscles. In the actual muscle cells inside here, you actually are experiencing the effects of not lactate specifically. This is slightly incorrect, because what it actually is lactic acid. So an acid, a weak acid, ends up accumulating in your muscles, and that's why your muscles hurt when you are intensely exercising. Okay? So now that we understand that, and this is a better representation right here, what's actually being created is lactic acid. But what your body's really good at, and what it will do, because who wants an acid burning away at our muscles? Your body actually uses this acid and creates and dissociates. What's a better term for this is dissociate the actual lactate molecule from the acidic portion of the lactic acid molecule. So here we have the lactic acid molecule, and the lactate molecule is very similar, except that we take away this hydrogen. This hydrogen goes away, and it actually ends up here, and that's why we call it the dissociation. So it dissociates, and your body then does something with lactate, but you don't need to worry about that. That's not the purpose of this video. It ends up using lactate for something else, but then we're left with a bunch of hydrogen ions. Now, hydrogen ions actually create the acidic environment inside our muscles, and that's what's actually creating the pain that's in our actual muscles. So, that said, this is where carnosine steps in. Carnosine, which is the molecule, again, that we made out of histidine and out of beta-alanine, ends up attaching to these hydrogen ions, and once it's bound to those hydrogen ions, it pulls these hydrogens outside of the muscle. So it pulls it outside of this muscle cell. So you see carnosine plus these hydrogen ions moving outside of the muscle cell. And then in your blood system, you have another enzyme by the name of carnosinase. And carnosinase actually breaks down carnosine. And that's how your body's then able, and that's how beta-alanine is so helpful, because through beta-alanine we're able to create carnosine, and through carnosine we're able to eliminate more hydrogen ions, which means we are able to exercise longer because we are not feeling the effects of these hydrogen ions doing all this damage, or not really damage, but more just creating this burning sensation that we feel during exercise. So less of a burning sensation leads to a greater productivity when exercising. And that right there is the reason why beta-alanine and carnosine and histidine are so important when it comes to exercise. So hopefully that was informative. I hope that I explained that correctly. I hope that you got a good understanding of it. And now we can move on to the dosage section, which actually is very interesting, because I'll be touching on this just a little bit more, and we'll be talking about kind of the dosages and some of the questions that you might have just based off of what I've presented this far. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. I really hope that was really interesting to you, because it was very interesting to me just learning about carnosine as a molecule and its different effects. I would like to quick add though to that, and that's why I'm putting this into this section before we go into the dosage section, is that carnosine actually has more benefits than just getting rid of hydrogen ions. Again, hydrogen ions are the things that make your muscles burn when you're exercising, and people attribute that to lactic acid, etc., etc. But it's the hydrogen ions that create that acidity, and those decrease glycolysis effectiveness. It also decreases calcium exchange, because calcium is certainly important when it comes to muscle actual contraction. And again, that's a whole nother video. You can look at that. But what's really important about carnosine is it doesn't just have an effect on your hydrogen. It also actually has an effect on, as an antioxidant. It has been proven to be an antioxidant, which means that it helps fight off free radicals, and free radicals are related to cancer. It also has an impact on a few other areas, and people, some of that stuff is debated, but I just want you to know that carnosine does have more of a health impact, a positive health impact, than just in exercise. It also has a health impact in other ways as well. Okay, so I just want to throw that in there real quick, that it does bind to, for example, like ferrous ions, and is able to neutralize some of that stuff as well, some of the bad stuff that's circulating through your system. It chelates as well. Okay, now let's move on to the dosage section. Now, as promised, I want to talk about dosage, but actually there are going to be a little bit of interesting stuff in this section as well, which kind of relates back to the last section in physiology. Essentially, beta-alanine you can take, and really roughly a dosage of 2 to 5 grams will be sufficient, but you have to take that over about 2, 3, 4 weeks. So consistently taking beta-alanine, you'll eventually slowly saturate the levels of beta-alanine that are found in your muscle. Now that might actually lead you to the question of, well, why not just supplement with carnosine? Because carnosine is as effective, and we know that because carnosine is the actual molecule that ends up leading to all these positive effects during exercise, as well as now we know that carnosine also has health effects just in general. So why not just supplement with carnosine? And the answer is, well, there's no real good reason. One, I guess, potential reason is that carnosinase, so the breakdown of carnosine through this enzyme carnosinase that we talked about in the last section is heavily found everywhere but the muscle. So if you were to ingest carnosine, it would have to go through your stomach, intestines, and then go into your bloodstream. And there is carnosinase found in the bloodstream as well as other tissues. So if it gets taken in by these other tissues, then you could see a decrease or a breakdown of carnosine that you just just orally took in. But when it comes to the actual trials, experimental trials, there have been no real differences, no actual big differences between supplementing with beta-alanine as opposed to supplementing with carnosine. So you could theoretically take carnosine as well, even with that carnosinase running through your system. So that being the case, experimentally, they've used about 4 to 6 grams of carnosine, so you might have to take more carnosine than you would have to take beta-alanine. So really it's up to you, but there have been more actual experimental trials with beta-alanine, more clinical trials with beta-alanine as opposed to carnosine. There have been just a few experimental trials with carnosine. So, and maybe there's a price difference between the two. And I will say, going back to the physiology section, that beta-alanine is the actual limiting factor. When we're talking about a reaction, there's a limiting factor. And that limiting factor is a particular substrate. So when we're talking about in the muscle, the actual synthesis of carnosine through histidine and beta-alanine, and using carnosine synthase, the enzyme carnosine synthase, there isn't enough beta-alanine. Your body's not producing enough beta-alanine. And that's why some people, if they produce a lot of beta-alanine, they don't see as much of an increase from the actual supplementation of beta-alanine. So that said, that if you were to supplement with beta-alanine, that's why if you saturate your muscles, then your body has enough of histidine, and then now it has enough of beta-alanine that it can produce maximal amounts of carnosine. So that said, do you really have to supplement with carnosine? Probably not. Your body's perfectly capable, and beta-alanine is not going to get broken down in your circulatory system as well as other tissues. It's just going to go in, and you're going to be able to saturate your muscles without fear of it breaking down. So that said, it might still be beneficial, or cheaper at least, to take beta-alanine as opposed to carnosine, especially from the fact that it's been studied on its safety effects as well, clinical, etc., etc. So whatever you choose, it's going to be beneficial. Just be sure to take the appropriate dosage and for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time before you'll actually see some of those benefits. So now let's talk a little bit about the safety of beta-alanine. And of course, just like with any one of these videos, I don't want you to take my word as gospel. Certainly go talk to your doctor, although I will say that a medical doctor probably doesn't know all these details about beta-alanine, unless maybe you're talking to a doctor who's really heavily into lifting. Then they might know it. But still, this is not an actual medical recommendation. This is simply just for informational purposes. That said, that out of the way, what we can talk about in terms of safety is that the longest trials that have been done on beta-alanine are about a year long. So that's a pretty long time, and there have been no actual negative benefits, negative effects of beta-alanine on the body, aside from paresthesia. So that is the tingling that people feel in their face and their fingers and their body, or on their skin in general. They might feel it all over the body. So that tingling feeling is something that some people love and some people can't stand. It just freaks them out. Now, I will say that the reason for that, and this is kind of speculation based on some of the studies that I looked at, is they think that beta-alanine also has an impact on your nerve cells. It tends to overexcite your nerve cells that lead away or to from your skin. So your skin sends signals obviously to your nervous system, and beta-alanine seems to excite those nerve cells. But it has not been shown to be in any way detrimental. It's just kind of a side effect that happens. If that freaks you out though, of course, then there is something you can do about that, and that's actually just by taking less dosage of beta-alanine. So instead of taking like your typical 2 to 5 grams in one dose, what you can do is break it up into maybe 3 mini doses or 4 mini doses or 5 mini doses, and that's what's actually going to decrease or minimize the amount of tingling that you'll actually experience. But you'll still get the benefits of beta-alanine as long as you consistently take beta-alanine in the appropriate dosages. So that's really all I've got to say. Again, no studies beyond 1 year, so you can take that as you will, but typically it's considered that beta-alanine, at least by the International Sports and Nutrition Institute, something along those lines, ISSN, not sure, I forgot the actual what that all stands for, but some accredited nutrition institute does say that it's safe, other than of course this tingling sensation. And again, you can read all about that down below in the article. All right, let's move on. This is the summary of the video for those of you that need a quick recap. If not, please subscribe and check out the attached article. Okay folks, for those of you that do not want to go through the entire video, don't worry, I've got you covered through the summary section. Okay, so obviously we're not going to be going into all the specifics that you might find throughout the entire video or in the article, but I'll do my best to kind of summarize everything that we discussed. So the first thing is, what is beta-alanine? Beta-alanine is an amino acid. And aside from it just being an amino acid, it also has an actual benefit when it comes to exercise. It tends to increase your productivity or your ability to maintain a certain level of exercise or intensity for a longer period of time. When we're talking about intensity, we're talking about a moderate to high intensity, so anything that's going to last between 1 and 4 minutes, that kind of creates that burning sensation in your muscles, whatever exercise you end up choosing, or anything that's between like 8 to 15 repetitions, something in that range. So we're not talking about really, really intense, not talking about like a 1 repetition max or anything like that. It's not going to help you with that. But it does have an impact, and it has roughly about a 12 to 13% impact on average, depending on the person, of course. Now, beta-alanine is synthesized in the body, but supplementing does typically help. Again, depending on the type of person that you are, you could be synthesizing more inside your body through your liver or less. So supplementing could help more or less, but typically supplementing does help. Now that we've got that out of the way, how does it actually do that? Well, it goes through a bunch of different physiological changes and ends up leading to a molecule called carnosine. And carnosine has an effect on your muscles by buffering hydrogen, so moving hydrogen outside of your musculature so that your body then can feel less, so that you can feel less of that burning sensation in your muscles, meaning then you can move further, but also it has an impact on glycolysis and all kinds of other things. What's interesting though is that carnosine actually also has a bunch of other health benefits, some of them heavily studied and some of them not so heavily studied. So in terms of dosages, however, you want to take about 2 to 5 grams of beta-alanine, and you want to take that for 3 to 4 weeks before you actually see any sort of benefits. And then of course you want to continue taking it after that. You can also supplement with carnosine instead. Typically it's roughly about 4 to 6 grams, but there have been no, or at least not to my knowledge, no real clinical trials on actual clinical work that's been done on carnosine, although some experimental work has been done on carnosine. So in all honesty, I would probably just stick to beta-alanine because that's been studied more. Now in terms of safety, beta-alanine is considered safe. You might feel that tingling sensation in your skin. If you don't like that, then you can just break up the dosages of beta-alanine, simply taking in less at a particular time, and that's what's going to actually end up leading to a lessening of that tingling sensation. The tingling sensation simply comes from beta-alanine exciting some of your neurons. But since carnosine does have a protective benefit in several different key ways, it's more likely that beta-alanine is helping your neurons and more likely it's helping your muscles and your tissue in general, as opposed to hurting it. That tingling sensation is simply a side effect that ends up happening. Okay, and that is the video. So beta-alanine, yes, it is effective. That said, if you found the video informative, and I really hope that you did because I did put a lot of work into this, hopefully you found the physiology really interesting. And if you did, then I would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. I do put a ton of work into these articles, which is listed below, as well as all my sources, peer-reviewed university sources are listed below. And liked and shared the video, that means quite a bit to me, but especially when I see that subscription number increase, it has an impact. Okay, that said, if you subscribe, then hopefully I'll see you in the next video, and have an awesome day. I don't know why that suddenly just came out so choppy. All right, peace.